Okay, we're going to go ahead and start. Welcome and thank you for being here with me today for this webinar. This presentation is on creative activities for adolescents to promote hope and healing during the pandemic. My name is Alexandra Hampt, and I work for JCS, Jewish Communities of South Florida. I'd encourage you to have paper and a pen or pencil with you while we do this presentation. I also want to ask you that if you have any questions, please post them in the chat during the presentation, because we are going to have a time to address the questions at the end, and my co-host is going to help facilitate that. So again, I'm Allie Hampt, and I'm a therapist at Jewish Community Services of South Florida, and I work for the PACT initiative. Jewish Community Services has been serving South Florida for the last 100 years, and we have services and programming for people of all ages and in all stages of life. If you want to check out our programs, we have a huge variety of them. Please go to our website, jcsfl.org. Our specific initiative is the PACT initiative, and PACT stands for Providing Adolescents and Children with Trauma-Informed Treatment. Our program serves children and adolescents ages 6 to 17 who have experienced various types of trauma, including physical, emotional, and sexual abuse, abandonment, grief, domestic violence, community violence, and separation from parents, as well as other types of trauma. The program includes individual therapy with parent components, and we use an evidence-based model and provide therapy. The therapy is provided by licensed clinicians in both English and Spanish. Again, feel free to visit our website for any more information. And we're going to get started on the presentation for tonight. This presentation is focusing on creative activities to promote hope and healing, and it's directed to adolescents, but is also, these activities can be adapted for adults as well, or younger children. These activities are in order to help cope with some of the distressing thoughts and feelings that are coming up during this time spent in quarantine. Life has changed significantly over the past 2 months. I would say it's fair to say that it's been very difficult for just about everyone. And some of the things adolescents have reported struggling with, to me, are boredom, stress, anxiety, worries, fears, loneliness, anger, frustration, amongst other feelings as well. And it's completely, I want to normalize, completely normal to have a mix of different feelings, but it does seem that there's some pervasive distressing feelings during this period. So as I go through these interventions, I want everyone to remember that it's important to recognize that different interventions and activities are more effective for different people. So some of them, maybe you'll try them and feel they're very effective for you. They may be less effective at a different time, even just within yourself. Some work better at different times of day. Some work better when you're in a different mood or there's a different circumstance. So I encourage you, no matter who you are, to try different things and to try again if you don't feel like it was as effective as you'd like to have been the first time. So this presentation has been divided into 4 parts. The first one is focusing on our goals. The second one is reflecting on our strength and resiliency. The third is looking for inspiration and motivation, and the last is support, self-care, and coping. So we're going to start with the goals section of the presentation, and I'm sure that all of you have heard reference the division between short-term and long-term goals. So short-term goals, those are goals that are more immediate and short-term focused. So I want to get this done in the next hour. This morning, I'd like to complete these tasks by the end of the day, this week, this month. Whereas long-term goals are future focused. That's more like by the end of this year or next year, or when I graduate or when I grow up. So right now, many of us or most of us are having to adjust our short-term goals. And that can be frustrating and upsetting. But I want to say that in most cases, we can still hold on to the more long-term goals. And in order to hold on to those long-term goals, one of the ways that we can help ourselves do that is to adjust our short-term goals to keep moving forward. So I'm going to discuss an activity that I call the goal steps. And it can be adapted to be done as a mountain, which I'll explain at the end. So if you do want paper or pen and you do want to do this, go ahead and grab it, and here we go. I'm going to ask you to draw on your paper a set of steps. So you'll draw your steps, and at the end of the steps, I want you to make a ledge. On top of that ledge, please choose a long-term goal. and just write it in there. And then on each step going up, put a short-term goal that will help you get to that long-term goal. Underneath the steps, the space that would be holding up the steps if they were real steps, write your supports. They're holding you up. Those can be people, things, institutions, groups, anything that supports you. On the side where the arrows are going towards the steps, I'd encourage you to write some obstacles that you might anticipate running into. So the purpose of doing this, right, is to focus on our goals, stay focused on them, and to keep moving forward with these short-term goals. And to remember that we have support. Check in with your supports. Look to them for encouragement. Let them hold you accountable. And the purpose of looking at the obstacles is to prepare. So obstacles may or may not come up, but if you're prepared for them, you're better equipped to deal with them as they come and keep moving forward towards your long-term goal. As I had mentioned, you can also do this as a mountain if you prefer. Just draw a mountain on your page. And at the top of the mountain, write your goal. Going up the mountain, the different short-term goals, and the supports underneath, the obstacles on the side. So that's, open to your preference. So the next part of the presentation is composed of activities that focus on strength and resiliency. So both of these activities involve tracing your hand. And let me explain what I mean by that. Take your non-dominant hand and place it on a piece of paper and trace around your part of your arm and your hand with your writing hand. So it looks like this for the first one. This is your tree of strength. So the part of your arm that is showing will be the trunk, your fingers will be the branches, and I'd ask you to draw leaves coming out of the branches. On those leaves, I want you to fill in strengths, both internal strengths that you have within yourself, and external strengths that you can look to and call upon. It's important to have both. And the reason for this is that I want you to be able to recognize that within your hand, within yourself, you hold a lot of strength that you can use. And it's also okay to reach out for help and to look for external strength. So you can reach your hand out when needed. So, the purpose of this is to remind you that you are strong and that you have within you things you need. And again, that you can also look to the outside when you feel like you need support. The next exercise is also your hand. So trace it again for this one. And I'd like you to write on the top of the piece of paper a situation or a problem that you feel that you're dealing with. Inside your hand, you're going to write the things that you feel are within your control. This can be factors that you decide on. This can be your response to the thing at hand. All different things that are in your control, ways that you're coping. Outside of your hand are the things outside of your control, the things that we really kind of have to let go of in order to keep going. So an example of this could be, the problem is it's a pandemic and I hate it. Inside your hand, you could write things like, even though I'm not with my friends, in my control, I can FaceTime them or I can text them. I can stay caught up with my schoolwork using, distance learning and Zoom classes. I can do things that make me feel better. I can keep myself safe and maybe others too by going outside with a mask on or keeping 6 feet away. The things that you can't control, well, you can't I really don't think you can cure coronavirus. You probably can't make other people behave responsibly. There's a lot of things you can't control and we kind of just have to let go. And the purpose of this one is to empower yourself to focus on what you can control and do it and let go of what you can't. So the next part, the third part of this presentation is focused on activities that are about inspiration and motivation. So I'm going to start with the inspiration sign, and I would ask you guys to grab a piece of paper or a piece of cardboard or whatever you'd like and choose a quote or a song lyric or a phrase that's meaningful for you, significant to you, that inspires you. Write it on your piece of paper or whatever you have and decorate it. Put images that are inspirational, borders, whatever you like, make it your own and hang it somewhere that you can look to it for inspiration. So here is an example of mine. It's a little simplified. And I chose a quote from Nelson Mandela that says, "May your choices reflect your hopes and not your fears." So then we're going to move on to the next one, which is 2 different things you can do with Post-its. So maybe you have some Post-its, maybe you can get some later on. The first one has to do with affirmations. So write some affirmations on your Post-its. Maybe you could write, "I can do hard things. I will be okay. I am loved." Whatever's relevant to your life, whatever is going to help you draw strength and motivation. Put them around your house, your room, wherever that you'll see them, and they can help motivate you, inspire you to get through, to do better, to make good choices. The other Post-it intervention that I like is pick a word of the week, and you can do this every week. So for example, maybe your word of the week is authenticity, and you write authenticity on 5 or 6 Post-its, and you place them around your room or your house where you're going to see them. Every time you see your word, you reflect, am I being authentic in my life? Am I making authentic choices that are authentic to my goals and my priorities? And so that's how those 2 interventions can help. The third one is a vision board. So you may be familiar with the vision board. This is one that I found on the internet that I kind of liked. But the vision board is a good activity. If you can get a big piece of paper, a poster board, and envision your ideal future. So what is your ideal future? What are your dreams? What are your hopes? And collage it or draw it or write it and make it yours and hang it up and look to it. And place it somewhere where you'll see it and you can look to it to inspire you and to help you work towards your hopes and dreams. So that brings us to the last section of this webinar tonight, which is on support, self-care, and coping. And there's going to be 3 activities in this section. So the first one I call throw away your worries. So again, we're going to get out a piece of paper, and I would ask you to spend 2 or 3 minutes writing down all the worries you can think of on a sheet of paper. Obviously, maybe you can't get all your worries out in 2 to 3 minutes, or maybe your mind goes blank and 2 to 3 minutes feels like too much. Just do your best, write it all down. Then you have a few choices. You can either crumple up that piece of paper or rip it up and throw it away. Or if you want to keep this page of your worries, fold it up very small and put it away somewhere you won't see it unless you choose to take it out again. And here's why. I think it's very important to express your worries. I think you need to get them out, communicate them, write them all down, and give them a voice. But you can't let your worries run the show. So if you want to crumple them up and rip it up, throw it away, get rid of them for now. That's cool. But if not, and you just want to hold on to your worries and get them out somewhere at some time, another time when you can reflect on it, that's okay too. Just make sure that you're not letting your worries dictate your choices or keeping you in a place of fear. The next activity is called Ask a Friend. So I want you to choose 2 people who love you and ask them to tell you 5 or 10 of your best qualities. Write them down for yourself and carry them around with you. Make sure you take them out to read when you're feeling bad or lonely, you're having negative thoughts about yourself, or you're upset. Use them to remind yourself how your loved ones see you and the authentic truths about who you are to help give you support even when you're distant from the people you love. So the next one and last is the quarantine coping skills list. And I'd encourage everyone to be creative and think of your own activities or things you can do during quarantine that's going to help you cope, to help you get through, feel better, distract yourself, whatever you need. I made up some examples here. And the ones I have here are phone a friend or use FaceTime. Write in your journal, take a walk or a run, but make sure you stay 6 feet away from anyone else and wear a mask. You can draw, paint, craft, or color. You can do yoga or other workout apps. There's a lot of free apps right now, and I encourage you to take advantage. You can blow bubbles. You can draw with sidewalk chalk. Play a game, a board game, a video game. You can play a game by yourself, or if you're in quarantine with people, you can play a game with other people. You can bake or cook, make a new playlist and listen to it, dance to it. Learn something new. There's lots of apps for that too. You could learn a language or how to braid your hair or how to knit or another skill. do something for self-care. Give yourself a manicure or pedicure or facial, something that's going to make you feel better. Write a story, write a book, write a poem, read a book, a magazine, a newspaper, a comic book. So these are ones that I generated, but come up with your own, be creative, make it yours. And I'd encourage you to choose things that you do, and also things that maybe you haven't tried, but maybe you'd like to, or you think could be helpful to you. So I want to thank you all for being here with me tonight. I again want to ask you to post your questions in the chat, and my co-host will help facilitate me handling the questions. I want to let you know that you'll be able to access this webinar in the future off of our website, again, jcsfl.org. And I really thank you, and I want to recap with, the presentation tonight was to help instill hope and during this time, and we went over activities, focused on goals, strength and resiliency, motivation and inspiration, support, self-care, and coping. I hope it's all been useful to you, and I encourage you to post your questions. And please tune in for next week's webinar. I'll be here with you to discuss stress management in adolescents and their parents. Thanks again.
Allie, the first question. These are great activities. Would we be able to do this with younger children or as a family? Do you think we would need to adapt anything?
So I really like that question, and absolutely you can do those with younger children. Younger children might need to change something. So say you're doing your tree of strength. Well, maybe you'll just trace their hand and let them color in, write their name on it, or have them write their name and remind them that they're strong. There's different adaptations you can do for different ones, and definitely I encourage you to do some of these as a family or in a group.
Next question. How could clinicians implement these activities with clients suffering from trauma?
So I think that depending on where your client's at, there are definitely ones that can be used. I personally used some of these for my clients, and I work with a population that has dealt with trauma. The Tree of Strength in particular has helped clients a lot, and a lot of them have connected with it. I also, think that other ones, depending on your client's temperament, personality, and preferences, the goal steps or mountain are really effective for a lot of my teenagers who sometimes need to have their goals in front of them. So I hope that helps, but I definitely think a lot of these can be used for that population.
Next question. Do you know any way to do activities on a whiteboard virtually?
So I'm going to be really honest, and that is not my forte. I'm sure there is, and I don't know it. But I think that, as we all navigate these trying times of learning more virtual therapy and telehealth, I think that we probably can adapt to it. I'm almost positive, and I'm sorry I can't give you the exact way, but I encourage you to look into that.
Next question. Any of these activities you think can help with conflict resolution? Is there a specific one that you would recommend?
I think that maybe, if I was working on conflict resolution within a family, say, I would definitely do the ask your friend, to have them reflect on each other's best qualities. I do think it also, I also think the Tree of Strength can be helpful to look to your strengths. I'm always a strengths-based therapist, and I think looking to your strengths can help you focus more on those and maybe less on things that might be getting in the way.
Next question. Do you think that these activities can be helpful for teens who are resistant to opening up? How can we help them engage in these activities?
That's a great question. And we get a lot of teens that are resistant. I think you have to be, I think it really depends on your specific teen. I think you have to be a little bit, I want to say sneaky, even though I don't mean it with such a negative connotation, and make sure that it's in line with something that they want to accomplish or a goal they have, and kind of get them in there. I do think it can be effective, and I've seen it be effective. The goals activities tend to be effective with teens that are resistant to touchy-feely kind of stuff, or talking about feelings, because it's very concrete and they do have goals no matter what they are. They might not be aligned with your goals for them, but they have goals.
Another question from the chat. How would you use these activities for emotion regulation? I currently have a client who has difficulty managing their anger.
So that's an interesting question. I definitely think coping skills can definitely come into play there, or even, throw away your worries. You could do that with throwing away other distressing things that are occupying your mind space. These weren't specific to anger management techniques, but I do think there are some that can definitely be used. What's in your hand as well. Focusing on what's in your control and what's out of your control, and focusing on letting go.
Do you know where we can get similar resources such as these activities?
Well, I mean, I know that I would encourage you to check out our website and to see our programs, and I'm trying to think about a good answer for that, because honestly, across time, I have accumulated these through different things, but there are art therapy websites that you can check on, or just, Googling different exercises, talking to different therapists. And, I think, I do always encourage people to call 211 if you're looking for certain resources, maybe creative therapy groups, and so on and so forth.
Can these exercises be used with younger children?
So yes, they can. They probably have to be adapted depending on the child's age and developmental level. You definitely can do versions of them, and maybe you'll do some of the writing, or maybe you'll just, simplify it. Like I said before, like you could just trace their hand, let them write their name in their hand, let them color it and make it theirs, and remind them that things, inside them that are strong. There's a lot of ways to adapt things, and I encourage you to, be creative and definitely use them with younger children as well.
And final question for the evening. Can these activities be used with children or teens diagnosed with developmental disabilities?
So that's a really good question as well. And I think that they probably can. I think you have to assess their abilities. So again, you might, as you might adapt them for a younger child, you might adapt them dependent on your client's or your child's abilities and developmental level. And you definitely don't want to give them a prompt that is going to frustrate them or cause them stress, but I do think that some of these, with some help, definitely could be used for that population as well. So was that the last question? I think that was the last. Okay, I think that was the last question for tonight. Again, thank you so much for being here with me, and definitely I hope you tune in again next week for our presentation on stress management in adolescents and their parents, and check out our website. We have a lot of really good programs. All right, thank you and have a good night.